Welcome to another episode of Kitchen Sink Dharma, and today I'm going to talk about water. So one of the most well-known teachings in early Buddhism is the Satipatthana Sutta. It's a teaching on the four foundations of mindfulness. And in this sutta, the first foundation of mindfulness is mindfulness of the body. And we're taught to practice with the body and to recognize that it's not just simply one solid fixed thing, it's made up of a number of elements. And like all physical things, it's impermanent, it changes over time. And we all have a concept of the body, but if we really sense into the body, if we really feel what we're feeling, we actually find there's a number of areas of hardness and softness and pressure and warmth and coolness. There's vibrations, there's energy, there's stillness, fluidity. And one of the exercises that's described in the Satipatthana Sutta is about tuning into these aspects of the body. And they're represented by the four elements of earth and water and fire and air. As I said, today I want to talk about water. And in this framework, the water element represents cohesion, it represents fluidity. And we're encouraged to recognize that the water in the body is actually the same element as the water outside the body, the water in the rain, the water in the rivers and the lakes and the seas. So I was in a workshop recently and the facilitator gave us a 5-minute break and she called it a water in, water out break. And it really struck me how much every day we exchange water, we take it in and we let it out. And it's not something we could really hold on to even if we wanted to. So meditating on the element of water, being mindful of the water element in the body just reminds us of impermanence. And it's about the impermanence of our own bodies, the way that they change, the way that they're replenished all the time, and how they're part of the world around us. And I want to read a short passage from the Tao, and it goes like this: the best way to live is to be like water, for water benefits all things and goes against none of them. It provides for all people and even cleanses those places a person is loath to go. In this way it is just like the Tao. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for attacking the hard and strong, none can triumph so easily. It is weak, yet none can equal it. It is soft, yet none can damage it. It is yielding, yet none can wear it away. Everyone knows that the soft overcomes the hard and the yielding triumphs over the rigid. And I think this passage really says so much about how water changes its form and adjusts to its surroundings, how it yields, but it can't ever be broken. And we have this natural tendency to want to be in control of things. We often struggle with things. We struggle with change. We deny the reality of impermanence and change. And water just doesn't offer any resistance to change. It doesn't try and defend a fixed position. But it's got the power to wear away the hardest rock. And it points out to me a way of living in the world that allows change, it allows uncertainty. And it's a way of living that's not based on reacting and resisting. And I think the passage also recognizes the power of persistence. And it says, nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for attacking the hard and strong, none can triumph so easily. So there's a sense of patience there for me. Water doesn't fight or resist, and yet always over time it prevails. I also want to explore one particular way in which water is central to early Buddhist teachings. In the Pali Canon, there's lots of references to entering the stream. We talk about entering the stream. Someone who's really started to engage with the Eightfold Path is described as a stream enterer. So entering the stream is about a way of living in the world. Somebody who's entered the stream has actually begun the process of freeing themselves from suffering. They've started to escape from the habitual circular patterns of craving and discontent and desire. And they're no longer being led by those things. Because what we understand is desire, discontent, irritation, ill will. These things are problematic in a number of ways. Firstly, they're painful. They take away our natural sense of joy. But there's a deeper problem with them, and in particular, their circular nature. We go round and round, they prevent us from entering the stream. So desire and reactivity and discontent, they're circular processes. They're the opposite of a stream. They just reinforce themselves. And when we're caught up in endless rumination, when the mind is going round and round and round, we're just not able to enter the flow. We get stuck. It's like we're in a whirlpool of reactivity. And the image of a stream is used because it conveys a certain amount of movement and direction. So your experience, your thoughts are constantly moving and flowing like the current of a stream, and you can try and resist this reality. Or you can jump right in, you can be a stream enterer. And there are various different competing concepts of stream entry if you look in Buddhism today in different settings. There's a lot been written about it. In some traditions, it's seen as almost impossibly high attainment, something that's only for monastics, not for ordinary folk like us. It's only a tiny number of people that can achieve stream entry. But that's not what the Buddha taught. Stream entry was considered something that was accessible at the time of the Buddha. It should be seen as accessible now. So in the early texts, people were waking up all the time. They were entering the stream. And it wasn't just renunciates, it was householders too, ordinary people. Not because somehow they were better than we are now. People 2,500 years ago were just as flawed. It was just as imperfect as we are now. It wasn't a golden age. There's actually one story in which somebody with a drink problem is declared by the Buddha to be a stream enterer. He's called Sarakani the Sakyan. It's in the Pali Canon, it's in the Samyutta Nikaya. So in the early scriptures, a stream enterer was simply someone who'd embarked on the Eightfold Path, someone who'd decided to cultivate wisdom, decided to live ethically and to train their mind, and someone with absolute faith in the Dharma and the teachings, who'd gone through the first stage of awakening. And what's supposed to fall away when you enter the stream are three. They're referred to as fetters. It's a slightly old-fashioned word. 3 fetters are supposed to kind of disappear when we enter the stream. And the first one is self-view. Another way of putting this might be narcissism. The second one is usually described as adherence to rites and rituals, but in other words, it's letting go of the idea that morality depends on just religious observances, rules, rituals, and so on. Third one is doubt. In other words, a stream enterer has got complete confidence that they're on the right path. And entering the stream means starting to see through delusion. It means believing, actually knowing that things can be different. Life doesn't have to be this way. And it was seen at the time as being a very ordinary movement towards awareness, towards awakening, towards knowing how things are. When we start to cultivate embodied attention, when we start to cultivate mindfulness, we're dipping our toes in the stream. You could say that a stream enterer has actually immersed themselves in it. But as soon as you start to practice mindfulness, you're already in the stream. Even if it's just a little bit. I find the term stream entry really useful because it conveys the sense of a life that flows, a life that moves and grows and changes and adapts. Life that accepts the reality of change. And like water, it finds its way past obstructions without too much effort. And it's a life with a sense of direction. So in this context, entering the stream is the opposite of going round and round in circles. It's the opposite of samsara, to use the word from way back then. It's the opposite of the endless round of craving and dissatisfaction and suffering that just goes round and reinforces itself. And it's not weakness, it's not passivity. There is a willingness to persist. There's a willingness to go into hidden places, difficult places, places that we're normally reluctant to go to. And there's also, staying with that metaphor, the Pali Canon also has references to drought and barrenness. And that's seen as a metaphor for dryness of the heart. There's several occasions when the Buddha talks about this. Drought means a space where nothing grows. It's the opposite of a life which is flowing. So water is used as a metaphor for living fully. And entering the stream means embracing life. It means changing the way that we live. It describes a way of living that actually recognizes impermanence and that adapts, that fosters resilience. And it takes courage. Entering the stream takes courage. It takes a certain amount of faith and confidence that you're going in the right direction. And when you do it, life doesn't suddenly become pretty. it doesn't actually signal the end of suffering. It's not about becoming a perfect being, but it does represent a very significant shift in perspective. And that's a shift that can't be undone. So a stream enterer will still experience the arising of difficult emotions, they'll still suffer, but they won't necessarily go back to their previous state of just confusion and delusion. So stream entry means the path has become a positive feedback loop, if you like. Life's no longer blocked. It starts to flow. So that's all I wanted to say about that. And thank you for listening, as always, to Kitchen Sink Dharma. Hope you can join us again next time.